Today we're going to be working in the Chapter 8, Tackle the Task. So this is our opportunity to apply some of the skills learned in this chapter to accomplish additional tasks for Craig's Design and Landscaping Services. Remember to refresh your memory, refer to the concepts that you've just learned, and the develop your skills exercises as needed. We're going to have to add in some new vendors, customers, and accounts as necessary. So before we begin, we want to make sure that we are signed into Craig's Design and Landscape. Make sure if you just finished the previous exercise with Develop Your Skills 8-7, you're going to want to close that browser and open up a new one to reset Craig's Design and Landscaping. So the first task we have is to set up an account for prepaid rent and create a payment. So Craig paid $900 in advance for 6 months rent on a storage unit for some equipment. 10/1/2026, check number 10075 to Downtown Storage. We're going to have to add in a couple accounts. I'm going to go to the chart of accounts and just add in a couple accounts here. So we're going to go to the plus new button. So we want an other current asset. We want a prepaid expense. And we're going to call this prepaid storage expense. I'm going to save and close that. So I have an other current asset, prepaid expenses, and then the name there, prepaid storage expense. So now we're going to go ahead and write that check. So we're going to go plus new on our navigation bar over to check. Downtown. We're going to add Downtown Storage. Save it as a vendor. Our payment date is supposed to be 10/1/2026. The check number is going to be 10075. And our amount. All right, so we have a check to Downtown Storage coming out of our checking account. Check number 10075. The category is going to that prepaid storage expense, and we paid $900. So we're going to save and close that. The next thing we want to do is record the prepaid rent expense and make it recurring. So we want 1/6 of the rent payment to be transferred into the rent expense on the 31st, reoccurring for 6 months. So we're going to have to create a journal entry for this. We're going to go plus new. Journal entries over here because we don't do it very often. I go rent or lease. We're going to debit that. And this time we want 1/6 of the payment. So $900 is the payment and we want 1/6 of it. So we're going to take 900 and divide it by 6. It's actually going to tell us that that's going to be $150. And we're going to go prepaid storage expenses and see it's automatically crediting it for $150. We don't want to save this just quite yet. We want to make it reoccurring at the bottom. So we're going to save our template name as storage. We want it to be done monthly on the last day of the month. The start date 10/31/2026, and we want it to end after 6 occurrences. So this is going to schedule this transaction to take place at the end of the month, every month for 6 months. So we're going to save that. And you'll see that it tells us that the reoccurring journal entry has been saved. The next thing we want to do is create a new fixed asset and a new long-term liability account. So Craig has purchased a small Bobcat S150 for $22,000. He made a $5,000 down payment and will finance the rest on 10/3. So we're going to have to add another account. So accounting chart of accounts, I'm actually already here. I'm going to add in a new account. This is going to be a fixed asset because it's a Bobcat. We're going to find a category that it fits under. I'm going to go with vehicles. We don't want to label it vehicles. We want to label it this Bobcat S150. I'm going to save and close that account. We also want to add in a long-term liability. And we're going to call this the Bobcat S150 loan. So this is a liability because this loan we owe, or we're going to owe money on. So we're going to save and close that. So that creates the two accounts that we're going to need. So now we're actually going to go through the process of buying that Bobcat. So we're going to actually write a check. So Craig's writing a check to WF Finance. I'm going to have to add WF Finance in there as a vendor. Check number is already good for me. I need to change the date to the 3rd. So I'm going to put in the Bobcat here. The Bobcat amount is $22,000. But he's not paying $22,000 today. He's actually only paying $5,000. So we're going to add some money to the Bobcat loan. And you'll see I'm going to put in negative $17,000 because now I owe $17,000 on the loan. The Bobcat's worth $22,000 and I'm making this $5,000 payment as that down payment. So then I'm going to save and close. Check saved. Next thing we want to do is transfer the funds for the Bobcat payment of the Bobcat loan to make the payment reoccurring for 36 months. So the payment of the Bobcat loan will automatically be deducted from Craig's bank account on the 25th of every month for 36 months beginning in November of 2026. The payment amount is $474.73. So we're going to go plus new. This time we're going to make a transfer. We're transferring funds from the checking account to the Bobcat loan payment, or the loan account. The transfer amount they told us was $473. So I'm just putting a little bit of information here in the memo. So it's the Bobcat monthly payment. The date on this one. I'm gonna leave that one right there and leave that date right there. Then we're gonna go to the bottom. So we're not saving and closing yet. We want to make this reoccurring. We're gonna schedule that monthly payment. We want it to be done monthly on the 25th. So we're going to tell it on the 25th. It's going to start in November. And it's going to end after 3 years or 36 occurrences. All right, then we're going to save that. The next thing we want to do is print a reoccurring transaction list in PDF format. This is actually not a report. So we're going to go to the gear menu over here. We're going to go underneath list to reoccurring transactions. And this will show us all the reoccurring transactions. So we actually just put in 2 of these today. And over here, we can click this drop down to run a report. This report shows us in this case, the 4 reoccurring transactions. So we're told to print this as a PDF. And then we want to save it as CH08 TTT for tackle the task. And then recurring template list. So we're going to save that as a PDF file. Then I'm going to close this. Next thing we want to do is set up a petty cash account, fund the petty cash account, and then use petty cash to reimburse an employee. So Craig requested a petty cash fund of $100 for making change and paying for small purchases. So we're going to write a check. So plus new, check. Our payee, if you remember from earlier, was cashier. We're going to have to add cashier in as a vendor. Our payment date here is the 1st. Check number matches. We're going to have to add in petty cash. It is, if you remember from earlier, a bank type. The detail type is cash on hand. We're going to name it petty cash. Petty cash is just another name for cash on hand. I tend to hear it more often. So we're going to use that one. I'm going to save and close that account. And we want to have $100 in petty cash. Save and close this. Let's save that check. And then the next thing we want to do is use petty cash to reimburse an employee. So we're going to reimburse them. So we're going to have a new expense. We're not going to put the payee, the employee, in here as a payee. So we're going to leave that blank. We don't want this to come out of our checking account. We want it to come out of our petty cash account because we're paying them cash. The payment date here doesn't tell us, so we're just going to use the 1st. The category, we're paying for fuel. And the amount was $24.25. So this is telling QuickBooks to take cash out of petty cash and count that as an expense for fuel. And we're going to save and close. So you'll see now that automatically my petty cash balance has updated to $75.75. Just taking that money out. Next, we're going to create a budget for income only. So Craig's handed you his sales projections for the fourth quarter of 2026. So we're going to add in a new budget. So we're going to the gear menu, over to budgeting. We're going to add a budget. We're going to name this fourth quarter. We want the fiscal year 2026. And then remember, here's just a preview of the budget. We have to go down to the bottom and click next before we're allowed to add in these things. So design income. we want to add in income of $4,500 for October. We want to add in $4,500 for November and $2,500 for December. Next thing we want is landscaping services. Landscaping services, we're going to have 7,000, 7,000, and 5,000. Again, we're doing this for the fourth quarter. So we're doing this for October, November, and December of this year. And then pest control services, if I scroll down. Here, October, 7,000, November, 2,000, and December, 1,500. And normally when you were doing this, you would fill out the majority of these rows, if not all of these rows, with your estimated income. But for this purpose, we're going to consider this done. So we're going to go ahead and click save. And we're going to close. You'll see that budget has been created here. So then we want to create the budget overview report. So we're going to go to reports. Business overview, we want to find the budget overview. Again, you could type it in that search bar over there. We want it to show just that fourth quarter that we prepared. So we want 10/1/2026 to 12/31/2026. So it looks a lot nicer with just those values there. So we're going to export this to PDF. We're going to save it. The book, I believe, tells us to label it CH08 TTT and then budget. And then we're going to save. All right, so that saves our budget overview and finishes up the Chapter 8 Tackle the Tasks.